What if the most dangerous fighter on the planet was also the most careful man when it comes to money? That's right. We have 8 black boxers today, each with a fortune but not a single unnecessary splurge between them. Stay locked in, because the number 1 name on this list is going to completely rewire how you think about celebrity wealth. Number 8. Frank Bruno, the people's champion who never needed the palace. Let's start with a name that hits different depending on where you're from. In America, Frank Bruno is a boxing footnote. In Britain, Frank Bruno is practically a national treasure. The man sold out arenas, headlined pay-per-view events, and became the WBC heavyweight champion of the world in 1995. A moment that made an entire country lose its mind. He earned millions doing it. And then, he quietly walked away from all of it and chose the kind of life that would make most celebrities deeply uncomfortable. No sprawling estate, no fleet of cars, no team of handlers following him through airport terminals. Just Frank, his health, and a very deliberate decision to live simply in a world that expected him to do the exact opposite. Here is what makes Bruno's story genuinely compelling, though. His financial modesty wasn't a smooth ride. He went through real turbulence after retirement, including very public mental health struggles that he has spoken about with extraordinary courage. Most people in that position, people who earned what Bruno earned and then faced what Bruno faced, end up broke. He didn't. He protected his money, protected his peace, and came out the other side with both intact. Today, Bruno earns a steady living through public speaking and television appearances, channeling his platform into mental health advocacy rather than personal luxury. He doesn't leverage his fame to acquire things. He leverages it to help people. And there is something in that choice, the deliberate rejection of splendor in favor of purpose, that is more impressive than any championship belt he ever wore. Frank Bruno reminds us that sometimes the bravest thing a rich man can do is simply refuse to act rich. Next up, we have a man who had a 5-year prison sentence and turned it into a $40 million empire. Keep watching, and if you love stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Number 7. Bernard Hopkins, the executioner of unnecessary spending. Here is a sentence that should stop you cold. Bernard Hopkins spent 5 years in prison as a teenager, walked out with nothing, and retired from boxing with $40 million, most of it still intact. How does that happen? How does a man from the absolute bottom of American society climb to the top and actually keep what he earns? The answer is discipline so extreme it borders on legendary. Hopkins became one of the most dominant middleweight champions in boxing history, holding the belt for a decade straight and somehow continuing to compete at elite level into his 50s. That career generated over $60 million in fight purses. And Hopkins, who had every reason in the world to celebrate loudly after surviving what he survived, chose to celebrate quietly, by not spending it. The man famously avoided the entire party infrastructure of professional boxing. No alcohol, no drugs, no nightclubs, no entourage burning through his money at hotel bars in Las Vegas. While contemporaries were dropping 6 figures on a single weekend in Atlantic City, Hopkins was at home. Just Hopkins, his thoughts, and a financial strategy that would make a Wall Street analyst nod slowly in respect. His money went into government bonds. Boring, reliable, inflation-resistant government bonds, and rental properties that generated passive income while he slept. Then, he did something truly genius. He didn't just retire from boxing, he became a partner at Golden Boy Promotions, transitioning from being the asset that gets traded to being the man doing the trading. He went from fighter to executive without missing a beat. Bernard Hopkins didn't just escape poverty. He escaped the trap that catches almost everyone who escapes poverty. The one where sudden wealth becomes sudden chaos. He is the executioner, all right? He executes unnecessary spending before it ever gets off the ground. Speaking of executing the unnecessary, our next boxer once carried his own kit bag to a world championship fight. You heard it right. Number 6. Marvelous. Marvin Hagler, the king who chose calm over chaos. Imagine the 1980s boxing scene for a second. This is the era of the 4 kings, Hagler, Leonard, Hearns, and Duran. arguably the most electrifying collection of talent the sport has ever assembled in a single decade. The money was extraordinary. The fame was intoxicating. The lifestyle temptations were everywhere, every night, in every city. Three of those four kings eventually lost significant portions of their fortunes chasing the lifestyle the era demanded. Marvelous Marvin Hagler said, "No thank you." Hagler trained in solitude in Cape Cod, running on the beach alone in the dark before the rest of the world was awake. No entourage, no hype men, no fleet of vehicles idling outside his gym. He was famously accompanied only by his trainers, the Petronelli brothers, and he carried his own kit bag to the ring. A detail so beautifully weird and wonderful that it perfectly encapsulates the man. Here is a world champion, walking to the ring in front of thousands of screaming fans, carrying his own gear like he just showed up to a Tuesday sparring session. Think about what that says about his ego. Or rather, what it says about the complete absence of one. After retiring, Hagler did something that nobody expected. He moved to Italy. Not to a penthouse in Rome with a staff of 12. Just to Italy, quietly, to live a slower and more deliberate life. He split his time between the Mediterranean and the White Mountains of New England. He cycled. He skied. He went fishing. He fulfilled a promise he had made to himself as a 14-year-old working in a toy factory. He bought his mother a home. Marvelous Marvin Hagler won every championship boxing had to offer, and then retired to a life of calm routines and everyday comforts. In a decade defined by excess, he chose peace, and his bank account reflected exactly that choice for the rest of his life. And now we shift gears. Quite literally, because at number 5, we have a boxer who drives a bulletproof Cadillac, but not for the reason you think. Number 5. Shakur Stevenson, the young king who already gets it. Shakur Stevenson is 27 years old. Let that land for a second, because everything that follows is going to hit harder once you remember how young this man is. He is a former Olympian, a world champion in multiple weight classes, and a rising star mentored directly by Terence Crawford, who, as you will find out shortly, might be the most financially disciplined fighter alive. Stevenson absorbed those lessons early, and it shows. Now here is where most young athletes go wrong. The first million. That first $1 million is the most dangerous money an athlete will ever earn. Not because of how little it is, but because of how much it feels like. To a kid from Newark, New Jersey who grew up watching his family stretch every dollar, $1 million feels like infinity. And infinity, psychologically, is a license to spend without consequence. Shakur Stevenson did not spend without consequence. He spent with precision. His mother got a house. Not a flashy mansion to photograph for Instagram. A home. Stability. Security. The thing his family needed most. Then he turned to his 9 siblings, 7 brothers and 2 sisters, and made sure every single one of them had clothes, supplies, and daily needs covered. He is essentially running a small family operation out of his fight purses, and he does it without drama or announcement. Does he drive a bulletproof Cadillac? Yes. But here is the thing. He got it because he needs security, not because he wants attention. There is a big difference between a car as armor and a car as a trophy. Stevenson understands that difference intuitively. He is mentoring younger fighters, investing in the next generation, and building a legacy at an age when most athletes are still figuring out how to tip properly. Shakur Stevenson is the rare thing. A young man who got the money and immediately understood what it was actually for. From the youngest on the list to one of the most quietly wise, number 4 walked away undefeated and never looked back. Number 4. Andre Ward, the undefeated man in every room. He enters. Andre Ward retired from professional boxing in 2017 with a record of 32 wins, 0 losses, an Olympic gold medal, and more belt combinations than most fighters see in their entire careers. He was unbeatable in the ring, and in every financial decision he made outside of it, he was equally impossible to touch. Ward's net worth sits somewhere between $5 and $10 million, which, on a list that includes a billionaire NBA player and a $40 million boxing mogul, might seem modest. But here is the thing about Andre Ward's money. He still has it. And that, in the world of professional athletics, is the rarest achievement of all. The man is defined by what he doesn't have. No ego-driven spending, no entourage burning through his fight purses, no comeback fights squeezed out of financial desperation. Ward retired because he was financially secure enough to retire. And in boxing, that is a statement more powerful than any knockout. The sport is littered with legends who kept fighting past their prime, not because they loved boxing, but because they needed the paycheck. Ward never needed to make that phone call. His post-ring life has been equally grounded. He became a premier broadcaster and analyst, earning steady income through his expertise rather than his celebrity. He pours his energy into his family, his 4 children, and community programs that don't require press releases to confirm they exist. His faith guides his spending, his priorities, and his quiet but unmistakable dignity. Andre Ward is the man who won every fight and then, more impressively, won every financial decision that followed. And he did it without anyone making a documentary about it, which honestly makes it even more impressive. 3 entries left, and things are about to get very real, very fast. Let's see how our next man built an empire out of a single neighborhood. Number 3. Terence Crawford, the real estate sovereign of Omaha. Let's talk about what Terence Crawford did with his first $1 million. Because in a world where athletes celebrate their first big paychecks with jewelry stores and car dealerships, Crawford sat down and made a list. A very specific, very deliberate, very Omaha list. $80,000 went to remodeling his grandmother's house. Not a new house, her house, the one she already lived in. He fixed the roof, reinforced the structure, and made sure the woman who helped raise him would never have to worry about where she lived. Then he bought homes for his sisters. Then he started buying more properties, and then more, and then more. Today, Terence Crawford, the pound-for-pound king of boxing, the man who has beaten Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez and collected world titles across multiple weight classes, owns over 40 houses across Nebraska, 6 apartment complexes, and numerous storefronts. He built a gym, B&B Gym, that trains youth boxers and teaches life skills in the same community that raised him. And he still drives a GMC truck worth about $20,000. Pause on that. After a $25 million fight purse. A $20,000 truck. Not as a stunt. Not for content, just because it gets him where he needs to go. He has been spotted flying coach. He moves through Omaha like a man who never forgot that he is from Omaha, which is exactly what makes him so extraordinary. Crawford's philosophy on real estate is simple and devastatingly logical. Nobody is making any more land. Land doesn't depreciate. Land doesn't go out of style. Land doesn't care about your Instagram following. It just sits there, appreciating quietly, building generational wealth for his 6 children while he sleeps. He didn't just invest in property, he invested in permanence. Terence Crawford is what happens when a once-in-a-generation talent is matched with once-in-a-generation discipline. The pound-for-pound king doesn't need the crown to know he's royalty. The balance sheet already says it all. We're into the top 2 category now, and the guy sitting at number 2 just turned a $40 million career into a masterclass that business schools should be teaching. Number 2. Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of personal finance. Lennox Lewis is worth $140 million. Say that again slowly. $140 million. For a boxer, a sport notorious for financial catastrophe, for champions who earned $200 million and retired broke. That number is not just impressive. It is almost statistically impossible. And yet, there it sits. Because Lennox Lewis treated his boxing career the same way he treated an opponent. With a long-term game plan, patient execution, and absolutely no wasted motion. Lewis grew up between Jamaica, Canada, and England, which gave him a perspective on money that was genuinely global. He didn't have one city, one culture, one financial ecosystem shaping his worldview. He had several, and what he observed across all of them was the same pattern. The people who stayed wealthy were the people who diversified early and protected obsessively. While Mike Tyson was losing his fortune in ways that have become the stuff of cautionary legend, and we say this with respect for Tyson the fighter while being completely honest about Tyson the financial story, Lewis was quietly buying a shopping mall in Las Vegas and a luxury hotel in the Bahamas. He secured a chairman position at Sun 7 Stars Investment Group. He developed a supplements line. He moved into film, appearing in Ocean's 11. He became an analyst for HBO and Sky Sports, extending his shelf life in the sport beyond his fighting years. Here is the question worth sitting with. How many athletes do you know who finished their career and immediately had multiple revenue streams waiting? Lewis didn't stumble into financial security. He engineered it while he was still fighting, so that when the last bell rang, the machine was already running without him. He owns a mansion in Jamaica, yes, but he earned $140 million. That is not extravagance. That is a reasonable reward for extraordinary restraint. Lennox Lewis is the blueprint every young fighter should be handed on the day they sign their first professional contract. And the #1 spot goes to the man who bought 40 houses, flies coach, and still drives the same truck. You already know who it is, but you don't know the half of it yet. #1. Timothy Bradley, the Desert Storm that never blew its fortune. Wait, you thought #1 was Crawford? Look, Crawford is magnificent, and he absolutely deserves every word we gave him. But Timothy Bradley deserves the top spot on this list for one very specific reason that goes beyond cars and houses and investment portfolios. Bradley deserves #1 because he got it right from the very beginning, quietly, consistently, and without anyone handing him a roadmap. Let's establish the stakes. Bradley fought Manny Pacquiao 3 times. 3 of the biggest fights of that era. The kind of fights that generate life-changing money and also generate life-changing temptations. He earned roughly $15 million from that trilogy alone. He had endorsement deals with Nike and Everlast. He was a world champion multiple times over. By every standard of the sport, Timothy Bradley was exactly the kind of success story that should have ended in bankruptcy court. Except it didn't. Not even close. Bradley kept his working-class habits locked in place like a defensive shell, even as the money grew. He didn't upgrade his lifestyle every time he upgraded his bank account, which is the single most destructive habit in professional sports. He avoided the flashy cars. He skipped the jewelry. He stayed focused on his family and his training with the same intensity in his financial life that he brought to the ring. And here is the real genius of it. He planned for the exit before the exit arrived. While he was still fighting, Bradley was positioning himself for a broadcasting career. He invested his time and reputation into becoming an analyst, not as a fallback plan, but as a deliberate second act. When he retired, he didn't need a comeback fight. He had ESPN. He had his savings. He had everything he needed because he had spent years making sure he would. His induction into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2023 was celebrated by a man with a full bank account, a clear mind, and 0 financial regrets. In a sport where the most common retirement story involves the word broke, Timothy Bradley retired with the rarest thing any athlete can possess: options. He didn't just survive the boxing business, he outsmarted it. And he did it the old-fashioned way, by spending less than he earned, every single time, without exception, without drama, and without needing anyone to applaud him for it. Timothy Bradley is Desert Storm, and the only thing he ever let the storm destroy was the idea that athletes can't get it right. From Frank Bruno choosing peace over palaces to Timothy Bradley outsmarting an entire industry, what every single one of these fighters has in common is that they understood that the real fight was never in the ring. The real fight is the one you have with yourself every time the money arrives and the world tells you to spend it. Which fighter's story hit you the hardest? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one. And if this changed how you think about Black wealth, make sure you hit like and subscribe to Black Status because we are just getting started. Catch you in the next one.